In December 2016, the internet practically exploded when a Canadian hunter posted a photo of a truly gigantic wolf. This wasn't a blurry photo like those in Bigfoot stories. It was a clear shot showing the hunter holding a wolf by the scruff that was almost as big as he was. The wolf weighed over 170 pounds, and its body length from nose to tail exceeded 6 feet. For comparison, that's almost the size of an adult human. The photo quickly spread across social media, with headlines like "Monster Wolf Caught in Canada" or "Real Werewolf Found in Alaska." However, the most astonishing thing about this story is that the photo turned out to be real. An examination of the photo showed that no Photoshop was used, and the hunter was indeed registered for a legal hunt. It was a grey wolf, but the size of a small calf. Experts explain that northern populations of wolves really can grow to such sizes thanks to abundant food and the harsh climate. But such a giant is extremely rare. Ordinary wolves weigh about 80 to 100 pounds, but this one was almost twice as much. Hundreds of comments started appearing under this photo. It's a mutant. He definitely ate bears. What if there are packs of these? And although scientists tried to explain the case rationally, the photo kept gaining popularity and people argued about what it really was. What's intriguing in this story is not only the size of the wolf, but also how easily such images are picked up online and almost turn into legend. People want to believe in monsters, want to think that somewhere in the wild forests, creatures from ancient times are still hiding. But even without any mysticism, such cases prove that nature is capable of surprising us. Now, let's see what happens when people come face to face with such giants. And it doesn't always end with just a photograph. A real encounter. The incident took place in the state of Alaska, not far from the town of Fairbanks. A local resident, a hunter named Douglas, went out early in the morning to check his traps. He noticed strange tracks in the snow. The footprint measured over 15 inches in length, which already seemed suspicious. Douglas thought they were the tracks of a large dog or possibly a bear. But as he continued on, he came across something completely unexpected. About 20 yards away from him, right on the trail, stood a wolf. But not an ordinary one. According to Douglas, this creature stood almost chest high to him, and he himself was over 6 feet tall. The wolf looked at him calmly and confidently, as if it knew it had nothing to fear. The hunter froze. He later admitted that for the first time in all his years of hunting, he felt real fear. The wolf slowly took a few steps toward him, but then, as if deciding the man was of no interest, turned around and disappeared into the forest. After this incident, Douglas returned home and told his neighbors about the encounter. Naturally, few people believed him until he showed the tracks he had photographed. The photos were sent to biologists, and they confirmed it was indeed the track of a large northern wolf, but the size was extremely rare. It is possible that this was an alpha male who had reached maximum size thanks to excellent feeding conditions and age. What struck the hunter most was the wolf's gaze. He said, "There was something human in its eyes. It looked at me as if it understood that I was weaker." And encounters like this are not all that rare. They just usually don't make the news. But if we look at official data, which wolves are actually recognized as the largest? Official records. The largest officially recorded wolf is considered to be an individual killed in the year 2000 in Alaska. This grey wolf weighed 235 pounds and was almost 7 feet long. To put that in perspective, that's about the size of an adult male lion. The wolf was an old alpha male from the pack, and scientists explain his gigantic size by good genes, abundant access to food, and the rare absence of disease. Typically, grey wolves weigh between 70 and 130 pounds, depending on the region. But in Alaska and Canada, there are populations where alpha males grow to be 1.5 to 2 times larger. The so-called Mackenzie wolves, which inhabit northwestern Canada, are especially renowned for their power. Interestingly, studies show that a wolf's size is directly related to the conditions of its environment. In cold, snowy regions, a large body helps retain heat better, and abundant prey such as moose, deer, and bison allows the predator to grow faster and become stronger. But records are not just numbers. Behind them lie real stories of the struggle for survival, hunting, and leadership within the pack. And some of these giants are even known by name. For example, the legendary alpha male Romeo from Alaska, who was so large and charismatic that people would come just to see him. Now, let's take a closer look at those who live in the harshest conditions. After all, that's where true monsters are born. Alaskan Monsters. Alaska is not just a land of eternal snow. It's a place where only the strongest survive. And here, wolves are the true kings. Among them, the Alaskan and Mackenzie wolves stand out the most. These great giants can weigh up to 180 pounds, and sometimes even more. Their fur is thick. Powerful paws allow them to move easily through deep snow, and their jaws crush the bones of their prey like twigs. What makes them so large? First of all, their prey. Alaskan wolves hunt moose, bison, and large deer. The bigger the prey, the bigger the predator needs to be to bring it down. Secondly, the climate. Harsh frosts force evolution to favor greater mass. The heavier the animal, the better its insulation. But there's another factor. In remote, hard-to-reach regions where people rarely go, wolves can grow even larger simply because natural selection is stronger there. The weak perish, and only the strongest survive. And sometimes it's from these very places that stories emerge about, encounters with almost mythical monsters. Question: why do such giants even exist? What evolutionary mechanisms are behind their growth? Let's figure it out now. Why are they so big? The size of wolves is not a coincidence. It's a complex combination of factors: genetics, diet, climate, and social status within the pack. Scientists have long noticed that in northern latitudes, predators including wolves are usually larger than their southern counterparts. This is explained by Bergman's rule. Animals in cold climates have greater body mass to reduce heat loss. In addition, a large body provides an advantage when hunting. For example, only a large wolf or a well-coordinated pack can bring down a moose weighing nearly 1,000 pounds. Alpha males are usually the most massive, since they are the ones who must lead the pack, protect it, and take part in the most difficult fights. Nutrition should not be overlooked either. A wolf that has plenty of food grows faster and becomes larger. In the rich hunting grounds of Alaska and Canada, wolves can reach sizes that seem unbelievable to the average person. But the most fascinating thing is the rare anomalies, when genetics, nutrition, and climate come together in a perfect combination, resulting in a truly gigantic animal. Such individuals are extremely rare, but it is precisely about them that legends are later made. And now is the perfect time to talk about those who lived long before us, the true giants of the Ice Age. But should we really believe that they have completely disappeared? Remains of ancient giants. When it comes to ancient wolves, the first name that comes to scientists' minds is Canis dirus, or the dire wolf. This giant lived in North America during the Ice Age. Its size was astonishing. The weight could reach up to 300 pounds, and its body length was over 7 feet. For comparison, that's almost as big as a large grizzly bear. Remains of dire wolves are still being discovered today, and the most famous site for such finds is the La Brea tar pits in California. More than 3,500 skulls of these giants have been found there. They had powerful jaws, short, massive legs, and enormous heads. All of this indicated that they were excellent hunters of large prey, such as bison or even young mammoths. What is most intriguing? Dire wolves became extinct relatively recently, about 12,000 years ago. And scientists are still debating why. One theory is competition with the more agile grey wolves and humans who invaded their hunting grounds. Another theory is climate change. But when you hear about encounters with giant wolves today, you can't help but wonder, could it be that in some places relic descendants of these ancient monsters have survived? And then, legends and tales take on an entirely new meaning. Giants of our time. Is it possible to imagine that somewhere in the remote expanses of Alaska or Siberia, giant descendants of ancient wolves are still hiding? Of course, scientists are skeptical of such theories, but it's worth looking into the reports of hunters and travelers to realize that real encounters with enormous wolves are still happening. For example, in the 2000s in Siberia, a group of local hunters reported an encounter with a wolf that was larger than any predator they had ever known. According to their descriptions, it was an animal weighing nearly 300 pounds with black fur and eyes that glowed in the dark. They were unable to catch it, but they did see its tracks, and these tracks were longer than anything they had ever encountered before. Some biologists believe that these are simply large alpha males, possibly with rare genetic traits. But there are also those who do not rule out the possibility of the existence of relict species descendants of ancient wolves that have somehow survived in remote areas. The most intriguing thing is that almost all such stories come from regions where people rarely go. These are the forests of Alaska, the mountainous areas of Siberia, and the nature reserves of northern Canada. And it is precisely there that stories are most often told, stories that frighten even seasoned hunters. Hunters and their stories. Northern hunters are a special kind of people. They know the forests, understand the habits of animals, and rarely exaggerate. But when they talk about encounters with wolves the size of a bear, you can't help but start to wonder. Here's a story from Norway. In 2010, a hunter recounted that his pack of lycas refused to follow the trail of a creature they would normally track without any trouble. When he went to check himself, he saw a huge wolf simply sitting on the slope staring at him. The dogs were trembling, and the hunter admitted that he had never felt such fear. In Canada, in the 2000s, there was an incident where a group of tourists heard a howl in the forest that, in both volume and depth, was unlike that of an ordinary wolf. Experts later said that it was possibly an old alpha male, but even they admitted that such a sound is rarely heard. Stories like this keep appearing again and again. Some consider them tall tales, but there are those who believe. Somewhere in the forests, there are creatures that have escaped the eyes of scientists and the lens of a camera. Tracks and discoveries. The most intriguing thing is the tracks. From time to time, hunters, rangers, and researchers find paw prints that do not match the size of any known species. For example, in the 2000s, tracks were found in northern Canada that exceeded 15 inches in length. That's about 1.5 times larger than the tracks of the largest recorded gray wolf. In addition, tufts of fur, scratches on trees, and even bones are sometimes found, which are then sent for analysis. In most cases, it turns out that these still belong to known species, just unusually large individuals. But there are also strange finds whose origins remain a mystery. For example, in the 2000s, a skull was found in Siberia that was larger than anything local biologists had ever seen. It was sent to Moscow, but the results of the analysis were never published. These discoveries fuel interest and give rise to new theories. What if unknown giants are hiding out there somewhere? And most importantly, how dangerous are they? Danger to humans. Large wolves do not attack humans without reason. They usually avoid encounters, even when they are hungry. But large alpha males can behave differently, especially if they are defending their territory or pack. Cases of wolves attacking humans are rare, but they have been documented. For example, in Alaska, there have been recorded cases where lone wolves attacked tourists or hunters. In Siberia, there were stories of packs attacking villages during the winter when food was scarce. What is especially dangerous about large wolves is their strength. A single bite can crush bone, and a leap can knock an adult man off his feet. Their speed and agility make them almost invisible in the forest until it's too late. But the most frightening thing is that you never know who you'll run into. An ordinary wolf will back off. But what if it's that rare giant, the one who looks down at you and isn't afraid at all? Sometimes danger doesn't hide in size but in who you compare yourself to. For example, with other predators that wolves share their territories with. Comparison with predators. When we talk about the size of wolves, is the perfect time to ask who are their real competitors in the world of predators. In North America, wolves share their territory with grizzly bears, brown bears, and in some places with cougars. Grizzlies, of course, are much larger. An adult male can weigh over 600 pounds. But here's what's interesting. Thanks to teamwork, a wolf pack is capable of driving off even a bear. There have been recorded cases where 5 or 6 wolves attacked an adult grizzly, taking its prey or driving it out of the territory. Wolves rarely attack large predators alone, but together they become an almost unbeatable force. When it comes to cougars, wolves almost always come out on top. A cougar is strong, fast, and dangerous, but as a solitary hunter, it rarely takes on an entire pack. Even a large panther will retreat if it hears wolves howling nearby. But what's most interesting is that large wolves, especially alpha males, often act as leaders not only within their own pack, but also in relation to other predators. They confidently patrol their territory, mark the boundaries, and even bears sometimes prefer to give way to avoid unnecessary trouble. Interestingly, size is not just a matter of biology, but also a climatic factor. And here we come to the next important point: how climate change might affect the future of these giants. The role of climate. Climate change is not just about warming or shifting seasons. For wolves, it means a transformation of their entire world. Less snow in winter means fewer chances to catch prey. Less prey means less food for growth. Warmer winters mean less need for a massive body to retain heat. Scientists are already noticing that individuals in southern populations of grey wolves are smaller. But in the north, where conditions remain harsh, the giants have not disappeared yet. But what will happen next? If global warming continues, the northern territories will begin to change. Moose and deer may move further north, and wolf packs will move along with them. This means that in the future there may come a time for smaller, more agile predators. But it's not that simple. Some biologists believe that a stressful environment may actually select for the strongest and largest individuals in order to ensure the survival of the pack. In that case, we might witness evolution moving toward even more powerful specimens. But there is another interesting aspect that is often overlooked: genetics and mutations. After all, it is precisely these factors that sometimes give rise to true giants: mutations and hybrids. When nature experiments, amazing things can happen. Sometimes a wolf is born with a mutation that gives it an advantage. For example, more powerful paws, longer fangs, or accelerated growth. Such mutations are rare, but if they become established in the population, they can create an entire line of giants. In addition, there is the phenomenon of hybrids. In northern regions, there have been recorded cases of wolves interbreeding with large dogs. Such hybrids are usually larger than wolves, but less adapted to life in the wild. Nevertheless, there are known cases where hybrids not only survived, but also became leaders in packs. In Canada, there was even a strange case recorded: a huge wolf with unusual black fur and a peculiar skull structure. DNA analysis revealed the presence of a gene from an ancient subspecies that was thought to be extinct. These rare events suggest that nature still holds secrets that may lead us to unexpected discoveries, and it is scientists who are now trying to unravel them. Scientific research. For many years, scientists have been studying the largest wolf populations, collecting data on weight, length, bite force, and social behavior. In recent years, genetic research has also been introduced to determine whether there is something unique in the DNA of these northern giants. Interestingly, recent studies show that large alpha males are not always associated with mutations. Most often, this is simply the result of good nutrition, a favorable environment, and intense social selection. But there are exceptions. Several wolf lineages have been found where the genes truly differ from the usual ones. Their origin still raises questions. In addition, researchers are increasingly using camera traps which they set up in remote areas. It is these cameras that occasionally capture footage that later sparks debate. What kind of animal is this? Why is it so huge? Is it a large wolf or something else? These videos become real sensations. And here we come to one of the hottest topics: video evidence. Video evidence. The internet is full of videos featuring mysterious creatures. Some of them are clearly fakes, but there are clips that scientists still cannot explain. For example, there is a video from Alaska where a huge wolf crosses the road in front of a car. Compared to the car, its shoulder height exceeded 3.5 feet. The people who filmed the video claimed it was the largest wolf they had ever seen. Another well-known clip came from Siberia. There, a hunter captured on camera a figure that quickly disappeared into the forest. Experts debated for a long time, was it a wolf or a bear? The size was more reminiscent of a large grizzly, but the body shape and movements were clearly wolf-like. Such videos fuel public interest and give rise to many hypotheses. Some talk about mutants, others about relic species, and some simply about rare large alpha males. But one thing is clear, as long as such footage exists, interest in the topic of giant wolves will not fade. But what is it that makes people so afraid of these creatures? Why do even the bravest hunters tremble when they encounter them? Why are we afraid of them? The fear of wolves is ancient, almost instinctive. Even our ancestors, wandering through the forests of Europe, Asia, and North America, knew if you hear the howl of a wolf pack, it's not just a sound, it's a signal. And although today wolves almost never attack people, old stories still live on in our memory about Little Red Riding Hood, werewolves, monsters that prowl in the night. But why is it that wolves in particular inspire such fear? First of all, because they are social predators. They hunt in packs, work in perfect sync, and know how to plan and coordinate their actions. Secondly, because they come quietly. You can walk through the forest for hours and not even know that you've already been spotted, but the wolves know everything about you. And finally, their eyes. Many people who have encountered large alpha males note that there is something intelligent, almost human, in those eyes. This fear is an ancient warning. It doesn't matter whether you live in modern America or on the edge of the Siberian taiga. When you find yourself face to face with a predator whose fangs can tear apart a moose, you remember that humans are far from the most dangerous beast on this planet. And if you think that all of this doesn't really matter, just take a look at how large wolves can change entire ecosystems. Impact on populations. Giant wolves are not just records for the sake of curiosity. Their existence directly affects the balance of nature. When an especially large alpha male appears in the pack, it changes hunting strategies, prey selection, and even the group structure. A pack with a powerful leader can afford to attack larger prey, such as moose or bison. This in turn reduces the populations of these animals, which affects the entire ecosystem. In Yellowstone National Park, for example, after the wolves returned, the ecosystem began to recover. The wolves controlled the deer population, which allowed forests and shrubs to come back to life. But if the packs become too aggressive or too strong, this can lead to problems such as driving out other predators or even conflicts with humans. The largest individuals are not just animals. They are the apex of the food chain, figures that shape what the world around us looks like. And increasingly, biologists are asking themselves whether they can be found today, and if so, where exactly to look for such giants. Is it possible to encounter them today? If you want to see a truly large wolf, you need to travel far to the north. Alaska, the Northern Territories of Canada, Siberia, these are the places where the real monsters live, but the chances of seeing them are vanishingly small. These animals live in places where humans rarely appear, and they are very good at avoiding encounters. There is evidence that in the northern forests of Russia, alpha males weighing more than 200 pounds can be found. In some areas of Alaska, tracks have been discovered that match the size of the largest wolves ever recorded in history. But these are always solitary individuals, as rare as pearls. Biologists and hunters advise, if you want to see such a giant, look in winter. Tracks in the snow reveal the presence of a pack, and a large wolf always leaves noticeable signs, wider paw prints, higher marks on trees, and distinctive remains of prey. But be careful, meeting with such a beast is no walk in the zoo.